If you want to understand how to use the paintbrush, pencil, and tool options in GIMP, this video will walk you through everything step by step in a simple, practical way. By the end, you'll know exactly when to use each tool, how they behave differently, and how to adjust the most important tool settings for better control over your artwork. If this tutorial helps you, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more GIMP tips and beginner-friendly software tutorials. Let's start with how to activate each tool. To select the paintbrush tool, you can press P on your keyboard or simply click the brush icon in the toolbox. To select the pencil tool, press N or click the pencil icon in the toolbox. These two tools may look similar at first, but they behave very differently, and that difference matters a lot depending on the kind of work you're doing. The biggest difference is anti-aliasing. The paintbrush uses anti-aliasing, which means it automatically blends the outer pixels of your stroke with the background. This creates smoother, softer, more natural-looking edges. It's ideal for painting, shading, sketching, and anything where you want the stroke to feel blended and organic. The pencil, on the other hand, uses no anti-aliasing at all. It forces each pixel to stay fully solid, which gives you sharp, blocky, pixelated edges. That makes the pencil great for pixel art, hard-edged drawings, and any work where you want crisp, exact pixels instead of smooth blending. Now let's look at the tool options, because this is where you really control how these tools behave. If you don't see the tool options panel, you can open it by going to Windows, then Dockable Dialogues, and then Tool Options. This dockable dialog gives you the settings that control both the paintbrush and pencil tools, and learning these options will help you get much better results. First is Mode. Mode controls how your paint blends with the layers underneath it. The default is usually normal, which simply paints over what's already there. But there are other modes like Multiply and Screen, which can change how the color interacts with the existing image. If you are just starting out, normal is the best place to begin because it gives you the most straightforward result. Next is Opacity. Opacity controls how transparent your brush stroke is. At 100%, the stroke is fully solid. At lower percentages, the stroke becomes more see-through. This is extremely useful if you want soft shading, gentle color buildup, or more subtle brushwork. If you want a strong, visible stroke, keep opacity high. If you want a softer effect, lower it. Now let's move to the brush properties. The brush setting lets you choose the shape and hardness of the brush tip. This affects the overall look of your stroke, so it's worth experimenting with different brush tips to find the style you like. The size setting changes the width of the brush in pixels. A smaller size gives you fine detail, while a larger size is better for broad strokes, shading, and filling larger areas. Aspect ratio changes the shape of the brush from perfectly round to elliptical. This is useful if you want a wider or flatter stroke shape. Angle rotates non-circular brush shapes, which gives you even more control over the direction and feel of the stroke. These settings become especially helpful once you start working with custom brush shapes or more advanced painting techniques. Spacing is another important option. Spacing controls how far apart each individual paint stamp is as the stroke is drawn. When spacing is low, the stroke appears smooth and continuous. When spacing is increased, the stroke can look more segmented or stamped. This can be useful for special effects, but for normal painting, lower spacing usually gives the cleanest result. Hardness controls how sharp or soft the edge of the paintbrush looks. A harder brush creates a more defined edge, while a softer brush blends more gradually into the background. If you want smooth shading, use a softer brush. If you want stronger edges and more precise marks, increase hardness. Force controls the density and saturation of the pigment being applied. In simple terms, it affects how strongly the color is laid down. Depending on your brush settings and the way you're working, this can help you create more controlled or more intense strokes. After that, you'll see Dynamics. Dynamics connect the brush behavior to things like pressure, velocity, or random variance. If you're using a tablet, Dynamics can make your strokes feel much more natural because they respond to how you draw. This can be especially useful for expressive painting and hand-drawn effects. Apply Jitter randomly scatters the brush marks along the stroke path. This can create a more textured or less predictable look. It's not something you'll use for every project, but it can be helpful if you want to experiment with creative, irregular effects. Smooth stroke is a very useful option if your hand is a little shaky or if you want cleaner lines. It helps reduce uneven movement and makes your strokes more stable. If you struggle with precision, turning on smooth stroke can make a big difference. So in summary, use the paintbrush when you want smooth, blended, natural-looking strokes, and use the pencil when you want hard-edged, pixel-perfect lines. Then use the tool options to fine-tune the mode, opacity, brush shape, size, spacing, hardness, and dynamics to match your workflow. Once you understand these settings, you'll have much more control over your work in GIMP, whether you're drawing, painting, editing, or creating pixel art. If this video helped you, please hit the like button, subscribe for more GIMP tutorials, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.